Okay, so I thought I would talk a little bit about what's been going through my mind lately and dealing with my mental illness and the fact that for the first time in my life, the last several months, I've been able to admit the fact that I have a severe mental illness. It's not just your average depression or anything, but since I've been medicated and in therapy, I've been going over some of the thoughts I used to have and how they were delusions. And they've all just been kind of coming up like, wow, I can't believe I thought that was real and stuff like that. But at the same time, something happened the other day that I'm going to talk about that kind of triggered my paranoia a lot, and it was a problem. But before I talk about that, I will talk about some of the things I used to believe and some of the things I've done that were very, very screwed up and very sad. So, like, for example, schizophrenia is because sometimes trauma-induced. Something goes on in your life and you can't handle it, and your brain starts to just shut down and you start believing all kinds of other crazy things instead, and your imagination kicks in, and it's like the self-preservation of your brain. And that's pretty much what went on with me, like a lot of trauma and not being able to deal with it and me just kind of surviving it, and it didn't work out too well. But some of the things that went through my mind are really ridiculous now that I think about it. It's like, where did that come from? Like, I have such a huge imagination. Like, I thought there were wires in the walls and somebody speaking into a microphone, and it was like somebody was talking to me through the walls. Like, that's the voices in my head, and they were Spanish. Just like, what is this? Like, I truly believe this in my mind at the time when somebody took me to the hospital and they were just like, you're hearing voices, you're hearing voices. I was like, I was quiet. I was like, I didn't say anything because I truly believed there was like voices in this house I was in, and it was just some type of like screwed up. And the funny thing is, at the time they were working on wires in the house, so I thought somebody was trying to deactivate those microphones. And in my mind, I really was so believing of all of this. I truly believed it. So that's one instance. There were other times, let's see. That's just one scenario that I believed. And other times in my life, I thought there were government conspiracies going on. And the funny thing about schizophrenics is that we always believe there's some type of government conspiracy every time. So it's not that I don't trust police. I love cops, because if it weren't for cops, I would not be alive today, because every single time I had a problem, they didn't make me feel stupid. They didn't make me feel crazy. They were just like, what's wrong? And they really know how to deal with mental health and mental illness. And looking back, I'm just like, no cop was ever a jerk to me about this. They were always just so helpful and nice to me, and authoritative, or whatever the word is. But at the same time, it was just like I would shut down whatever crazy thoughts I was thinking and pay attention to the fact that I was, needing help at the time. And at the time, I trusted police because I thought something bad was going to happen to me. And that was what was really going in my head. But in real life, it was like I needed their help mentally. But at the time, I was just like, I thought, like all these conspiracies were happening, and it's like cops are the good guys, you know, like in my mind, I truly believe this stuff. And, sometimes I still do. So that's the fact that I'm never going to get over this. I know that now. Like, I could take medication, I can go to therapy. But, for example, I couldn't talk in therapy last time because I had something going on and I was scared. So I'll tell you what that is. I went to a job interview, which is, I'm realizing now that I'm not going to be any use to anybody. This guy was also interviewing, and he said he used to work for the NSA. So he sits down and talks to me forever, and I'm just like taking all this to it's a conspiracy. He's out to get me. He found me. All this crazy shit is going through my head because the funny thing is, like, coincidentally, I've met people in the CIA before, and that triggered all kinds of crap for me. So when somebody worked for the government and I'd meet them, like for the CIA, NSA, or whatever, and it's a weird coincidence that I would meet these people, but I do live in a military town, so it's kind of expected. So, I believed they were part of this conspiracy, and maybe they were helping me, or maybe they were, it's just all this crazy shit going through my head. And so that got triggered the other day when I was at the job interview, and of course I didn't do very well at all because I was too busy worried about the CIA being after me, and you know, just things like that. And it's a trigger for me right now. It's definitely something that I truly believe sometimes, and then I have to realize there's a part of me, like a part of my brain that believes it, and it's so true, and then the rational part of my brain is like, that's your schizophrenia, that's never going to go away, and it's always going to be there. So managing it is very difficult for me. I'm learning how to do that, and it's only been like 3 months since I've had a place to live. I haven't been homeless. I haven't been working at a job or anything, and I haven't been overdoing it myself with artwork or anything like that. I've just been talking. So it's been helpful because the artwork and stuff like that keeps your mind reeling, and the overactivity, like exercise and artwork and things like that, actually make it worse. So that's another awesome fact of mental illness. That's why in the hospitals and stuff, they have you color in between the lines. They don't have you like painting a picture because you're just going to go somewhere else in your head. And that's why that crap, beautiful mind, people take advantage of schizophrenics all the time. Like, one of the things that I did want to talk about is I don't like it when people do take advantage and feed delusions. Like, it would be something if somebody came to my house pretending to be a CIA person and said, "Oh, well, we're investigating you," and da 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 da, or you know what I mean? It's just played a prank. You don't do that to somebody with a mental illness that's suffering. Like, you do that to your friends that aren't really going to believe you. But if somebody has a mental illness, it's painful. So the things that go through their minds, I watch a lot of videos about people that think they're being gang stalked and under surveillance from the government, and satanic ritual abuse and demonic possession, and all these things are mental illness, right? And it's a pattern. They always believe the same crap, and it usually stems from TV and church. Church makes it worse. All the terror they fill you with. So a lot of people usually believe those kinds of things that they're real. And the mental health professionals were awesome to me recently, and they would just say, you know, that's not real. It's like Santa Claus. Instead of somebody drilling in your head like you're going to go to hell if this happens, and we'll take your money though, you know. So it's hard. But what some people will do, unfortunately, there's a lot of people on YouTube with mental illness that believe, oh, there's witches after me and things like that. And what somebody mean would do is to feed that delusion and play a game with them, you know? And that's what I call bullying. I feel like that's what happens to a lot of people with mental illness. It's definitely happened to me, but I try to ignore it. And it's happened to people that I know, and I don't like it at all. It bothers me. I worry about them. So when somebody says they're being bullied or gang stalked or something like that, it's usually because somebody in their life is actually bullying them and pressuring them, putting a lot of pressure on them, making them believe that there's something wrong with them because they have a mental illness. So there's that stigma, which is really bad, and I try not to pay attention to it, you know, like in PSR, they were like, I was like, I want to learn more about my mental illness. He was like, you mean why you are the way you are? So it's like, this isn't your fault, you know what I mean? It's just your brain doesn't work the way everybody else's does. And I've had to realize that over the last few months. And it's sad that I've lived with this my entire life, and people I've met won't accept me like this. So that's why it helps to do these videos, because if anybody gave a shit, you'd watch it and be like, oh, so you're really delusional at certain points in your life, you know, instead of pretending like I can manage the way everybody else does. Like, no, that incident at that job interview, the guy from the NSA, that automatically freaked me out. I started panicking. So, that was just a coincidence. And in my mind, it wasn't a coincidence. It was for real. So, you know, he could have been lying or whatever. I don't know. But, in my mind, I believe it. Unfortunately, in my mind, I definitely believe it. So anyways, it's hard to deal with. It's very hard for me to function the way everybody else does. Like, I can't. I wish I could, but it's difficult. So I do the best I can, and but this is all new for me to actually talk about it, and I do these videos just so I can see what I'm talking about, and to not be afraid to be honest about what I'm really thinking and feeling, because most people don't know, and it's embarrassing when you say it, like believing there's wires in the walls. I was homeless, and I had been sleep deprived like crazy, and it was too much for me. I could not handle it. So that's when I started believing that stuff. And I think, you know, there were other things I believed that are really embarrassing and stupid, but I definitely don't believe anymore. But also, I've done things that I'm not going to talk about either that are harmful to myself, and I don't intend on doing them anymore. But I think that was like the biggest thing of how much I trust police officers now, and caseworkers, and people that actually gave a shit about the things that I did to hurt myself, and took it seriously, because it's not okay. And I did some of the worst things. So this was a while ago, but you know, the whole issue is talking about it so that you never ever just let all this bubble up and you think you don't need to be on the planet anymore. Because that's what will happen when a lot of people ignore and avoid people with mental illness, because we're weird. We're annoying. We're weird. We don't act normal. You wish we would. We can't. So we start to believe we don't deserve to be here. And that's the sad part. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking now, and just thought I'd get some of that off my chest, because I have nothing to hide anymore. This is who I really am, and this is what I have to deal with on a regular basis. So, Thanks for listening.